Baglamukhi Jayanti. We are joined today with the presence of Dr. David Kinsley's book. And this is an image from the book, which I think is a very modern way of interpreting the Devi. And I also have my interpretation. So let's get into it. She is known as Pitambara Devi because she appeared in a lake of turmeric. So turmeric haldi is yellow, and Pitam is somehow yellow as well, like Sri Vishnu, which is also associated with her myth, one of her myths. So there are at least three major myths of Sri Baglamukhi in this book. So in the second myth, a demon named Madan undertook austerities and won the boon of Vak city, according to which anything he said came about. He abused this city by killing people. Enraged by his mischief, the gods worshipped Baglamukhi. We have some incense here as well, candle. One live, hello. She stopped Madan the demon's rampage by taking hold of his tongue and stilling his speech. Before she could kill him, however, he asked to be worshipped with her and she relented. That is why he is depicted with her. The third myth touches on the origins of both Baglamukhi and Dhumavati. Once upon a time, Shiva was living on Mount Kailash with Parvati. She became so hungry that her body was racked with pain. She complained to Shiva, asking him for something to eat. "Oh Shiva," she said, "please give me some food. I am famished." Shiva told her to be patient and wait a bit, after which he would give her anything she wanted. But having said this, Shiva ignored her and went back to doing yoga. She appealed to him again, saying that she was desperate for food. He again asked her to wait a while. She protested that she could not wait, that she was starving to death. When he still was uncooperative, she put Shiva himself into her mouth to devour him. After a little while, smoke began to issue from Parvati's body. Queen Kate, hi. The smoke was her Maya, power of illusion. Then Shiva emerged from Parvati and said, "Listen, O goddess, a woman without a husband, as you just were, is called a widow and must strip herself of the ornaments and marks of a married woman. That woman, you, who left her husband by swallowing him, will be known as Baglamukhi, and the smoke that came from her will be known as the goddess Dhumavati." These three myths are so dissimilar that it is difficult to think of them as variants of each other. They seem to represent three different meditations on Baglamukhi's origin. In the first myth, Bagala is associated with Vishnu and plays a role similar to one of his avatars. That is, a cosmic crisis arises and Vishnu initiates action to meet it. Bagala emerges to restore cosmic stability. This myth does not overtly emphasize her ability to stun or paralyze, excuse me, for which she is famous. But the stilling of the storm does imply this power. So we had a storm here. Also, Kayla's channel. Hi. The myth also promotes the superiority of a goddess over an eminent male deity, in this case Vishnu, by implying that he could not deal with the situation and had to summon the goddess for help. In the second myth, Bagala is again propitiated by the gods. The implication is that the male deities collectively petition her to rescue the world from a power-crazed demon whose very words can kill and destroy. She stops the demon's rampage by grasping his tongue, preventing him from further speech. She is almost always portrayed in this act. In this myth, her power to paralyze is explicit and stressed. She is often said to give the power of paralyzing the movements and activities of enemies. She is also said to be the giver of Vak Siddhi, the power of superior speech by which all opponents can be defeated. In this myth, by stopping the demon's tongue, she exercises her peculiar power over speech and her power to freeze, stun, or paralyze. In the third myth, Bagala is cast in the familiar role of Shiva's wife, as in the version of the origin of the Mahavidyas as a group in which Sati challenges Shiva to allow her to attend her father's sacrifice, even though Shiva has not been invited. So here, Parvati and Shiva are at odds. Parvati is hungry and wants to eat at once, while Shiva, apparently indifferent to her hunger and impatience, puts her off and ignores her, or at least ignores the intensity of her need. As in the Sati myth, Parvati directly challenges Shiva. She satisfies her hunger by eating him. Although the denouement of the story asserts Shiva's primacy by having him, in effect, curse Parvati, condemning her to assume the form of Baglamukhi and Humavati, Parvati's power over Shiva is dramatic and memorable. The myth also hints at the meaning of Baglamukhi's name, which may be translated as she who has the head or face of a crane. Like a crane, she swallowed whole what she ate, her husband, and perhaps this is why she is called Baglamukhi. The names Baglamukhi and Pitambara. She is often referred to as Pitambara Devi. Both names are strikingly distinctive, suggesting peculiar and particular characteristics. Okay, Mahant Ramashankar Tripathi told me that women in South India wear yellow and that it is an auspicious color. He also suggested that yellow symbolizes the sun and gold. He said that the lust for money paralyzes people and that the sight of yellow, which represents gold, has the same effect. I have also been told that yellow is the color of ripe grain and fire, the former suggesting abundance and the latter purity. The four yugas or world ages have the following colors: white, yellow, red, and black. So in this yuga, some say it is the Kali Black Yuga. In this system, yellow is next to white in excellence as the yugas decline in purity from the best to the worst. The five bhutas, or elements of creation, earth, fire, water, wind, and space, are denoted by colors and shapes. Earth is designated as yellow. This may imply that Pitambara Devi is associated with the earth and worldly blessings. Baglamukhi's yantra, interestingly, shows two squares superimposed on each other at an angle, which may also imply her association with the earth, the square being the shape for the earth element. Turmeric is also associated with marriage. Turmeric, which gives the yellow color, is par excellence the color and symbol of marriage in the south and other parts of India. Although yellow seems auspicious or pure in most of these cases, its exact relation to Baglamukhi remains obscure. This is Dr. David Kinsley. Okay, magical power, she who gives siddhis in the Tantra Sara says, "Oh, Baglamukhi, please arrest the speech of wicked people, paralyze their faces, fix their tongues, and destroy their intellect." At the end of her stotra in Rudra Yamala, it is said that those who worship her will be able to make their enemies deaf and dumb, destroy their intelligence, and turn their wealth to poverty. Worshipping her will also make hostile people friendly toward the adept. One author says that Baglamukhi is worshipped to gain control over one's enemies, to paralyze others, to attract others, to bring about the death of another, to counter the influence of the planets, to get wealth, and to win court cases. Her paralyzing power applies to motion, thought, and initiative. In the hymn of her 100 names in the Rudraya Mala, she is called she whose form is the power to paralyze and she who paralyzes. She gives the ability to stupefy. She also gives the power of forceful and intelligent speech, by which one can defeat any opponent no matter how brilliant. In the Sankhya Tantra, she is compared to the Brahmastra, the missile of Brahma, a supernatural weapon used by the god in war. In fact, one of her most common epithets is she who is the form of Brahmastra, Brahmastra Rupini. The Sankhya Tantra also has a special section about worshipping her for the acquisition of magical powers. In some texts, specific recipes for worship are given for the different siddhis sought from Baglamukhi. So they're like burnt offerings that you can try. And here's another image. A contemporary author tries to explain the nature of the siddhis Baglamukhi bestows on her devotees by comparing the ability by comparing them to the ability of certain animals to detect the presence of other creatures in situations where human beings would not be able to. They seem to either have more acute senses or extrasensory perception. He explains that every living creature gives off subtle waves that pervade its whole body and permeate the environment it occupies. These waves linger for a while after the departure of the creature who made them, he claims, and can be detected by dogs and crows, for example. Baglamukhi bestows such heightened sensory abilities on her devotees, and with them her devotees can overcome, outwit, and control other people. In the case of each of the Mahavidyas, and indeed in the case of almost every Hindu deity, rewards can be expected from correct and sincere worship. Similarly, in the ancient meditative tradition of Hinduism, going all the way back to the earliest texts on yoga, one finds the assumption that worldly benefits, rewards, and special powers may be achieved through meditation. These are the 8 cities, in fact, that Baglamukhi should be associated with such pragmatic and practical rewards and accomplishments then is neither surprising nor unusual. It is merely explicit. Positive or negative interpretations can be placed on this aspect of Baglamukhi. One author says that she represents the ugly side of living creatures like jealousy, hatred, and cruelty. Another informant, also by coincidence a monk of the Ramakrishna order, says that Baglamukhi's powers of stambhana, paralyzing, represent her control over the 5 pranas, breaths inside us. She controls the vital breath. She conquers the tongue, by which self-control overcomes greed, speech, and taste. Indeed, we find in Baglamukhi's epithets references to both her power to give worldly enjoyment and her power to grant wisdom, knowledge, and liberation. In her 1,000-name hymn, for example, she is called she who gives moksha to all, she who is the bestower of ultimate liberation, and she who gives wisdom. On the other hand, she is also called she who bestows ultimate enjoyment, giver of wealth, and giver of pleasures of dharma and artha, which means power. Baglamukhi's associations with desire and pleasure probably can be understood as part of her bestowing the power of attracting others including that way. Several of her epithets in her thousand name hymn associate her directly with Kama, or the god of this desire, Kama Deva. She is called, for example, she who dwells where there is that desire, she who likes that desire, she who is, she whose form is desire, whose eyes are full of desire, who gives this desire, who takes pleasure in play. Another string of epithets associate and identify her with the female organ. She whose form is the yoni, who dwells in the yoni, whose form is the lingam and the yoni, who has a garland of yonis, who is adorned with yonis, who enjoys the union of the lingam and yoni, who is worshipped with the lingam and yoni, who is absorbed with the lingam and yoni. Okay, in many depictions of Baglamukhi and in some of her dhyana mantras, she is sitting on a corpse. A hymn to her in the Rudraya Mala, for example, it describes her as having her seat on a platform seat in the middle of the ocean of nectar. The throne is decorated with red lotuses, and she sits on the corpse of an enemy she has killed and tossed onto the throne. At the same time, she is pulling the tongue of a man or a beast-like creature. This combination of the goddess seated on a corpse while pulling the tongue of a demon suggests certain features of Shava Sadhana, practice using a corpse, which is described in some texts. The presence of corpses in the iconography and worship of several of the Mahavidyas is striking. Kali, Tara, Baglamukhi, Chinnamasta, Matangi, and Bhairavi are often depicted or described as standing or seated on a corpse or preta, ghost. Others, such as Dhumavati, although not seated or standing on a corpse, are sometimes said to be surrounded by funeral pyres or to be worshipped in cremation grounds. And then he goes into the different interpretations of why. The best time is said to be on the 8th lunar tithi, bright or dark, on a Tuesday night. The corpse should be intact and should belong to a young member of the Chandala caste who drowned, committed suicide, or was killed by a spear, lightning, a snake, or on the battlefield fighting the enemy. The sadhaka should avoid using the corpse of a person who was very attached to a spouse, lived an immoral life, was prominent, or died of famine. The sadhaka takes the corpse to the place of worship, reciting a mantra to purify it as he does so, assuming the adept is a male. He offers the corpse 3 handfuls of flowers and makes obeisance to it, saying, "You are the Lord of all heroic persons, Lord of Kulas blissful. You are the form of Ananda Bhairava. You are the seat of the goddess. I am heroic myself. I bow to you. Please arise for the purposes of making my worship of Chandika fruitful." The sadhaka bathes the corpse with perfumed water while uttering mantras, then makes a bed of kusha grass and places the corpse on it with its head towards east. Having put some betel nut in the corpse's mouth, he turns the corpse over and smears sandal paste on its back, making a square in the middle, of which he draws a yantra with an 8-petaled lotus and 4 gates. He puts a woolen cloth over the yantra, and if the corpse moves, he spits on the corpse. He then worships the guardians of the directions and the 64 yoginis with vegetable offerings. Next, he worships the Shava Asana corpse seat and sits on it, mounting it as he would a horse. He expresses his intention, sankalpa, saying that he desires, as a result, saying what he desires as a result of the worship. He then ties the corpse hair into a knot. Next, he makes offering to the deity, placing them in the mouth of the corpse. Getting off the corpse, he binds its feet with silken cord and draws a triangle them, around the feet. Okay. Remounting the corpse, he presses its hand firmly down on the kusha grass, practices pranayama, breath control, and meditates on his guru and the deity in his heart, repeating the deity's mantra fearlessly. While doing so, he scatters mustard and sesame seeds in all directions. Again, getting down from the corpse, he takes 7 steps and returning, repeats the deity's mantra. If he hears a voice asking him to make some offerings, he should reply, "Next time I shall offer an elephant and other things." Then he should say, "Who are you and what is your name? Please give me a blessing." After this, he unbinds the feet of the corpse, bathes it, and buries it or places it on a body of water. It is not clear in this description exactly whom the sadhaka might be worshipping and whom he might be trying to control. At some points, it seems clear that he is propitiating the corpse itself or the corpse as the seat or location of a deity. At some points, it seems as if he is trying to control the corpse or that the spirit is inhabiting it. The image of mounting the corpse in the fashion of riding a horse is particularly vivid and reminds me of possession cults such as voodoo, in which spirits are said to mount those whom they possess. The tying of the corpse's feet and the pressing down of its hands seem to indicate that the sadhaka is trying to control or tame the corpse or the corpse's spirit. It is also not clear whose voice addresses the sadhaka in the corpse ritual. It might be the deity whose mantra he is reciting, or the spirit of the corpse, or the preta or bhuta associated with the corpse. The Tantra Sara mentions another possibility, a goddess named Karna Pishachi who lives in the heart of a corpse. She favors the successful sadhaka by coming invisibly to him and whispering in his ear the correct answer to any question. The text says, ascending her, getting her power, the sadhaka can go anywhere and see past, present, future. Who is going to win this war? Okay, perhaps the deity is summoned or commanded by Shava Sadhana, and it is she whom the aspirant seeks to contact through this rite. Karna Pishachi is also described and discussed by a contemporary tantric practitioner as a deity whom one encounters in the cremation ground and from whom one may obtain knowledge of the present and past, not the future. Okay, this deity has clear shamanistic overtones. A central theme in shamanism is the acquisition of a spirit who gives the shaman special or mystical knowledge from the spirit world. Both in Shava Sadhana and in the propitiation of Karna Pishachi, it seems that the sadhaka is interested in gaining access to such a spirit. It is in cooperation with or through the power of this spirit that the adept comes to possess magical powers for overcoming, controlling, or defeating his enemies. This is the possible connection between Baglamukhi, who is so consistently associated with granting magical powers, and Shava Sadhana. Describing his own experience with this ritual, someone says, "The old man had warned me that if she, the corpse, tried to get up, I should knock her down and pin her firmly. He was also warned that the corpse begins to growl and scream at the sadhaka who is seeking to control it." In Tibetan Buddhist tantric corpse sadhana rituals, the adepts is warned that if the corpse comes to life, it must be subdued, which may involve biting off its protruding tongue before the ghost can devour the adept. Ch in Tibetan is ch. The enemy that Baglamukhi beats sometimes has animal characteristics, which may suggest its ghost or spirit nature. A painting in the private collection in Bharat Kala Bhavan in Varanasi shows Baglamukhi pulling the hair of a demon who has a tail and dark complexion. In another painting in Bharat Kala Bhavan, the demon she abuses is monkey-like in appearance. It may be that the depiction of Baglamukhi seated on a corpse while afflicting a demon is meant to suggest that she overcomes or controls the corpse's spirit, which has been revived or summoned by means of tantric rituals such as Shava sadhana. By bringing the spirit under her control, she becomes the mistress of magical powers, as does the sadhaka who worships her. This analysis of corpse imagery also might be relevant to other Mahavidyas. Kali and Tara are often said to stand or sit on corpses. Chinnamasta sometimes stands on a corpse being consumed in a funeral pyre, and Dhumavati is sometimes pictured in cremation grounds. This is a striking aspect of the Mahavidyas and begs for interpretation. The ghost of the corpse has not been settled and lingers in the liminal areas between life and death. It still dwells in the land of the living, not being able to depart for the land of the dead until the appropriate Shraddha rituals have been performed. In this sense, the spirit of the dead person is a potential Preta or Bhuta, an unhappy spirit that can cause trouble for the living. The spirit of a person recently killed, especially if the death has been violent, is a preeminent example of a liminal being, a being between identities, realms, structured contexts. Such a spirit, like Pretas and Buddhas, who are stuck permanently between worlds, does not belong anywhere. They are outside all structures. Victor Turner has argued that many religious rituals, beliefs, and practices seek to create liminal situations or transform human beings into liminal figures. The reason for this, he argues, is that transformation of the consciousness or identity, which is the goal of many rituals and beliefs, cannot take place easily, if at all, within the structures of the normal world. In many cultures, initiation rituals often take place outside the normal confines of society, in a bush, the woods, or special places. The ritual often uses the imagery of rebirth to speak the aim of the rites, which is to transform the initiates. Similarly, perhaps, tantric rituals aim at transforming the aspirant, awakening in her an expanded consciousness and the acquisition of a new identity. An appropriate place to undertake such rituals is the cremation ground, the liminal place par excellence, to associate or identify with a fresh corpse, to employ one as a seat for ritual purposes, or to court the company of ghosts and troublesome spirits enhances the liminal context of tantric rituals, instilling them with transformative potential. Baglamukhi temples. Shrines dedicated to Baglamukhi are not very common. Her worship is undertaken primarily through individual sadhana, which does not require a public shrine or temple. However, the author has visited a few temples. One is in the old part of Varanasi, not far from Manikarnika Ghat. The temple is attached to a private house, and I was told by the priest that it was a private temple but open to the public. The image of the goddess is normally kept hidden, which is typical in goddess temples. This one is covered and with clothing and a silver mask. The priest told me, however, that the image underneath depicts Baglamukhi in her familiar form, namely pulling the tongue of a demon and about to strike him with a club. The priest said that the goddess gave the siddhis of detachment and marana, the ability to kill by simply willing it. He did not mention stambhana, which is the siddhi associated with Baglamukhi. To the right of the goddess is an image of Shiva, and to her left an image of Ganesha. The statue of crouching lions facing the goddess, which is typical in goddess temples. Pictures of the 10 avatars of Vishnu hang in the adjoining hall. And outside the temple on the porch are large paintings of Garuda and Krishna. The goddess then has strong associations at this temple with both Shiva and Vishnu. The large painting of Garuda, Paksharaja, the king of birds, may be significant in light of Baglamukhi's association with the crane, although the priest did not comment on this association. According to the priest, Tantrikas do not worship at this temple, and blood offerings are not offered here. It is used primarily by ordinary householders and residents of the area. The sandals of the founding Mahant chief temple priest are prominently enshrined in the hall adjoining the main sanctuary that houses the image of the goddess. None of the other Mahavidyas is enshrined or depicted at this temple, and the goddess's association with this group is nowhere in evidence. Another temple to Baglamukhi is in Bankandi, Himachal Pradesh. Bankandi, where the arrow split the ground, so named because long ago a sadhu established a spring by repeatedly jabbing an arrow into the ground, is a small town, and the temple is located outside it in the woods. According to the temple priest, the goddess came from Tibet, where she had killed demons who were assaulting her devotees. The tradition that Baglamukhi came from the north is interesting and is supported by her popularity in Nepal. The king of Kangra became the goddess's devotee and established her worship there. Since that time, the priest says she has been the protective deity of the area. The priest said that the temple was 400 or 500 years old. The goddess grants all desires and gives protection from all harm and blesses people with children. She is unmarried according to the priest, and there was no sign of a lingam or an image of a male consort. The priest said that her vahana is sometimes a crane, and indeed, a framed painting in the temple showed Baglamukhi seated on one. The crane is attacking the demon with its beak, and another crane is flying to join in. The priest said that the goddess likes yellow, which is the color of the crane's beak. The entire temple, inside and out, is painted yellow. The actual image of the deity, which the priest assured me resembled in detail the descriptions of the goddess in her dhyana mantras, was not visible except for the head, which was of rough black stone. The most famous temple in this chapter is at Datia in Madhya Pradesh. Author did not visit. It was established sometime in the 1930s by a sadhu who eventually became known as Puja Swami. Baglamukhi was his Ishta Devata, his chosen deity, and he established her image to benefit India, which at that time was at the throes of the independent movement. Patriotism remained the strong theme in the sadhana of this founder priest, and I have been told that he undertook special worship to invoke Baglamukhi's power of Stambhana against the enemies of India, guess who, both internal and external, on several occasions. An image of Dhumavati is also installed at this temple, and it seems clear that Baglamukhi's association with the Mahavidyas is emphasized there. According to one report, left-handed worship of Dhumavati takes place at this shrine, although the founding priest did not practice it himself. This same description says the image is beautiful and she is associated with material blessings and welfare. And you can also find YouTubers from Madhya Pradesh who also conduct rituals online. Hawan, you can search. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.